Hello and welcome to today's clip, which is all about how to create and use rubrics to provide meaningful and fast feedback. I'm going to explain to you first of all what a rubrics is, and then we're going to have a look at how these can be implemented within the Google Classroom assessments so that you can provide students with quick and effective feedback to help speed up marking and also to provide feedback to a large number of students. Okay, so what actually is a rubric? So a rubric is a tool that is used to interpret and grade a student's work against criteria or standards. So I've given you some examples as to how this might be used within your current educational setting. So it could be used against a RAG system, which could be used to grade a student's progress or a student's knowledge within a lesson or along a whole scheme of work. You could use key progress indicators or KPIs that your school has designed in line with the national curriculum or GCSE criteria. You might want to fit this in against the GCSE specification, looking at specific AOs in line with your subject area. Or you might want to take a different approach, looking at effort and participation within the work that your student has produced. However you want to do this, it can be adapted to fit in line with this approach. So the aims of this presentation, first of all, we're going to look at how it is that you create a rubric for your classroom assessments. Once we've understood how to actually physically create a rubric for your assessments, we're then going to have a look at how we can reuse our rubrics rather than having to recreate one across each assessment. I'll give you some examples of different rubrics that I use within my lessons, so hopefully you can take some ideas from these and adapt them to your own classrooms. Okay, so let's start by having a look at how we actually make the rubrics for our classroom. So the first thing you need to do, you need to be on your Google Classroom area. You need to select the classroom that you would like to create an assignment for. So I'm just going to use my Year 11 Geography classroom as an example here. You then need to select at the top classwork. Once you've selected classwork, you will need to create an assignment for your class. So if you go down to the drop-down menu and select assignment. If you'd like to reuse a post of an assignment that you've already created, that's completely fine. But for today, I'm going to show you how to do this on a new assignment. Okay, so once your new assignment has been created, you need to give your assignment a title and some instructions. Okay, so I've got my assessment now up on the screen in front of you. Now that all of the fields have been completed, I've attached the documents that I would like to use for my assignment. The second document down here, this is the file that the students will be actually completing their work on. One of the important factors here is to make sure that you select student, make a copy for each student of this assignment. This means that all of the students will be working on their own individual document rather than having to re-upload or edit in each other's work. This will make marking the assignments much easier as well. Okay, now that you've selected make a copy for each student, it's now time to add the rubric. So if you look over on the right hand side of the screen, you've got a little plus arrow and then it says add rubric. So if you select this, we're going to now focus on the section that says create a rubric. If we do not have one already, we can't reuse it just yet. So once you have selected create your rubric, you will then have a screen which looks like this. You can add as many different criteria to the assessment as you like for this piece of work. And you add the information that you would like for each one. So the first rubric that we're going to look at is effort. So how much effort has the student put into their work? So you select where it says criterion title, and then you will type in effort. I like to do my rubrics on a scale of 1 to 5, as this allows me to kind of look at the different level of effort that students put in. However, your school might prefer to work on a 3-tier system. You might want to label this red, amber, green. It's entirely up to you. So once you've decided on how many levels you're going to have within your point system, you need to make sure that you label each point 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, or 1, 2 and 3 if you're doing a RAG system. Then within your level title, this is where you will put what that kind of value actually symbolizes. So I'm going to quickly fill those in now. Okay, you can now see that I have added in the different criteria for each amount of points available to the students, and a short description as to what would constitute a student being in each of these different point criteria. This is really useful as it allows students to realise what they need to do to reach each of the levels within the work they are completing. Okay, once you've completed this piece of work for effort, you might want to add a second set of criteria to your rubrics. So, for example, I might add another criteria. This time it might be to do with knowledge. So we can see what it is that the student actually knows about the level of quality of the work. So a content-based description. And then you can add in again all of your points and so on. I'm just going to leave it at that one for now with just the first one above, but you can add as many different criteria as you like throughout your work. This will make marking much easier for you as you go along. Once you are happy with your rubrics, you then can click Save in the top. Once this has been saved, you will see a little section here underneath which says Rubric. This means that it has been attached to your assignment. As soon as you select Assign, all of your students will be given this piece of work along with the criteria that they need to meet to be able to complete the assignment. Now we're going to have a look at how we can actually use the rubric when assessing our students' work. So the way you do this is you have a look at the assignment that you want to assess. Once you've had a look at the assignment that you want to assess, you then select the handed. Okay, now we're going to have a look at how you can actually mark using the rubrics. So you can see the student's piece of work in front of you. You will need to open it up within your documents section so you can see the handed in work from the student. You can then scroll through and have a look at the work that has been created and produced by your student. Once you have gone through and read through the student's work, you can give them feedback using the rubrics at the side, based on the criteria that you have selected. So if we read through the student's work, we might decide that they have given a good level of effort to their work. When you select the good level of effort, it will give them a score out of 5 using the rubric you have selected. The student will automatically be given feedback as to what they did to get into that criteria, and they'll also be able to access the next level up so they know what they need to do to improve the quality of their work. It will also generate automatically a mark out of 100 as a kind of proportion of the rubric that you have selected. Once you are happy with the mark that you have selected for your student, you then select Return Submission, which is at the top of the screen. This will then automatically notify the student of the feedback you have provided for them and will update the mark scheme or the mark sheet in front of you so that you can have an ongoing piece of data collection in regards to the student you are looking at. Okay, so now that we have fulfilled our first aim, we are able to create a rubric for our classroom assessment. We're now going to have a look at how we can save time. Rather than having to create a new rubric every time we create an assessment on the classroom, we can actually reuse our previous assignment rubrics. This will allow us to spend more time going through and actually giving feedback to our students rather than creating the assessment objectives each time. Okay, so let's take a look at how we can reuse a previously used rubric. So the way we do this is we select the Add Rubric button just as we did before. However, this time we select Reuse Rubric. And we can select a rubric within an assignment that we know was very similar to the one before. So you can do this within the same classroom. So if you had a previous assignment that had the same criteria within the class that you are teaching, you can select it from here. However, if you are teaching multiple classes across different year groups, but you want to use the same criteria, you can then scroll through and you can actually select a rubric from a different year group or from a different classroom. So I'm going to reuse the one that I used for my Year 10 assessment with my Year 11 assessment as well, as the criteria were both based on effort. So then I will click Select, and it will automatically load up that rubrics and add it to my assignment, so I don't have to keep on writing out the criteria over and over again. So if you then select that, you can see that you have added the correct rubric to your assignment here. allowing you to save time rather than having to write it again. And then just as before, you click Assign and your assessment will be selected for the students. Here's another example of a rubric that I like to use within my classroom lessons. Within geography, we have lots of different AOs that the students need to understand in order to reach the marks for their assessments. And this is applied across all different subjects of the school, whether that be English, RE, history. And I like to make these rubrics specific to the GCSE exam, so the students know exactly where the marks are coming from in their assessments. So here's an example of an 8-mark question criteria that I have created. The first 4 marks within an 8-mark geography question come from knowledge. I have then added a description as to what knowledge actually means within their geography question. As there are 4 marks available, there are 4 possibilities within the answer. The second 4 marks come from the AO3, which is to do with assessment and judgments that are made by the students in their answer. So I've added a little description here as well as to what that means. This allows students to really understand where they're getting the marks from within their 8-mark questions, using the exam specification and the exam criteria. This can be adapted to all types of subjects so that the students have a better understanding of the GCSE exam specification, allowing them to make better progress and improve upon the work that they are creating both inside the classroom and outside of the classroom. Okay, so that comes to the end of our video. Hopefully that has been useful and you gained some ideas as to how you can change up the way you're using assessment in the classroom to make it more meaningful for students so they know how to make progress within your lessons, and also so that it saves workload and time for yourself, so that you can ensure that you are giving effective feedback across every single assessment that you're setting to your students, but also you are not taking up all of your time in providing this feedback. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop me an email. My email is on the slide now, and I will hopefully be able to help you out with any questions or queries that you have. Thank you.